Yes, one of the primary gifts of mine is the ability to coordinate socks with my outfit. Mr. Weaver this morning does not have that same. Get the white socks on. Sorry, we still love you. We love you. Yeah, just to echo what he said, we're very, by we I mean my wife and our three kids, we're very excited to be here. The way that I told Michael how I felt about being a part of a church is that I was not looking for, and I don't think God has called me to plug into something that is already existing, because if that were the case, I would have just found a church with a certain congregation size and a certain compensation package, and I would just sent my resume like you do for any other job. But I feel very strongly, and have been affirmed regularly and consistently, that not only is this specifically where God wants us, but that Michael and I get to be a part of God's larger work of building His kingdom. We're excited to do that in this specific community of faith. And as with all building projects, they take time, and we get that. We understand that. Like, we're committing to a process of following Jesus and just seeing where He has us go. And like He said, we're here for the long haul.
I may have missed it, but I never heard Jake's testimony. Have you shared it?
No, I haven't. So let's see if I can do this quickly. If you haven't already noticed, I have a talking problem. Not that I don't articulate or that I stumble over words, although that does happen. I talk too much, and my wife is probably back there. Yeah, I just saw her check her watch. She's timing me right now. So let's see if I can do this quickly. Both Michelle and I grew up here in the Belleville community. We actually live in the town where both of us lived for a time growing up, and grew up in church. My great-grandfather was a deacon at a church, and so I liked to go to church with Pawpaw. He'd come pick me up. I had a suit and tie, I was looking fly. And he'd come and pick me up in a blue Toyota. We'd head to church, and I asked my mom and dad one day, hey, why don't we go to church? And it's convicting enough that their 4-year-old would ask them why they weren't going to church. So we started as a family, and we continued. My family did faithfully being in that church. And so I know church culture, I know church isms, and I can play church. And it wasn't until late high school, college, that God really got a hold of me, and I started to really understand all that stuff that had been talked about my whole life. And to put it in the words of another pastor that I like to read, my eyes were opened, I believe, for the first time then, and I saw Jesus for who He was, that He is an all-satisfying treasure, and that there's no greater pursuit than following Him, and that my joy and His glory are not alternate pursuits, they are the same pursuit. So for me to be joyful is to love and follow Jesus, and I've been trying to do that since then, and then the birth of my children just radically transformed my categories of God's love, and I think really expanded my ability to understand His love for me. And the more you understand God's love, the more you're able to faithfully follow it. So that's me, I guess. What was that, 2 minutes?
I can't be all the questions. Somebody's got to have something. Yes, sir.
So what is y'all's vision moving forward?
We have talked about the common word that we come up with is growth. But as we've said here in the past, and we'll say in the future, that growth is not just a numbers game. We're not looking for a certain number. We're not saying 300 is our goal. What we're doing is spiritual growth first, and God will do the rest. We're going to work on growing not only ourselves, but this community of faith together spiritually, and we feel pretty confident that God will take care of the rest. We do have visions for long-term goals of another sanctuary out there, and maybe an additional building over here, but again, those are just ideas and thoughts. And if you dream little with God, you're going to learn really quickly that's a mistake, because He'll take what you think is not a reality and make it so much bigger.
Michael and I have spent a lot of time talking about that question in particular, and the thing that I think both of us keep coming back to is not the specifics, while those are important for having a vision. And like if you don't set goals, you won't reach them. But not focusing on per se the goals, but what are the things that we do to support what we believe God wants for a church. And so, big picture, if you just like look at communities of faith throughout the New Testament, like what they did, they read the Word, they knew God's story, they had people explain what that meant for their life, and they responded. So if we do those things, like he said, we're just going to trust that God has our best at His heart, and what happens is going to happen. And I know it's a very big, kind of general, nebulous sort of answer, but we want to talk about Jesus, and we want to follow Jesus, and we believe that when you do those things, it is attractive to a world that is lost. They want that, like the psalm that we were just sang, taste and see. Like that's what Grace Community is about. Like we've tasted, we're experiencing. Hey, you want to come taste and see with us. And when you do that, people see God for who He is. They want to be involved. They become a part of this family. And I think that's how growth happens. It's not programs and doing a bunch of stuff and getting a bunch of people in the door, and then they never know who Jesus is. But it's first and foremost that we live out the Jesus story, and we just include people in it. Cue the crickets.
What's your plan for the youth? Do you have like a...
Is that you're looking at me? Is that for me?
Yes.
Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, I served at a church in industry. It's actually the church where Michelle and I grew up. And I'd done student ministry for a long time. So you're prompting me.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. Yeah, well, so we've done student ministry for 10 years. It's hard for my brain to think in other categories, but I've noticed that as I've grown up, like the age of the people that I relate to is growing up with me. Like it used to be like junior high-ish, and now junior hires, if you're in here, Travis, man, I love you, but I don't really like being around them. Travis, you're okay, but like you put you with a bunch of your peers, and man, just like my eye twitches, and I just like I want to whoop them, snatch them up bald-headed, like Michael says. No, I'm slightly kidding. So with that, like student ministry usually is a totally separate thing. Like you literally have two churches. You have your church for adults, and then you have your church for students. And I think that that's an ineffective model, and I've shared that with him. I think we both feel similarly about it, that student ministry is done best when you just involve families. So students are a part of the church. Like if they love and trust Jesus, they are the church. They're a part of this community of faith, and we want to teach them and do life with them in a way that reflects that truth. And so it's not going to be like your cookie cutter, probably student ministry, but they're going to be involved in things that we do. You have men's Bible study, you have women's Bible study, we have a youth Bible study, but still together, like we meet like this, and our youth are part of this. And I think trying to figure out other ways for that to happen here is exciting. Like I'm excited about it. Michelle and I we told them on Wednesday when we were with them that we're going to be a part of what they do, but it's not going to be like an every Wednesday sort of deal, trying to fold you guys into ministering to them and their families.
I'll take up the question. Yes, ma'am. No,
Do
you're good.
you two schedule time every week to talk and share? And is that part of your relationship growing?
Yes, ma'am. He's got 3 off periods on some days and 2 on other days. No, you got 3 off? No, I thought that was right. So the first couple of weeks, man, it worked out great. We got to spend a couple of hours every day at the school together, either in my office or his classroom, to kind of kick around the scriptures, to discuss what we envision going forward. Last week kind of got away from us, and we didn't have an opportunity to do that. My schedule is a little less scheduled. It's kind of when chaos breaks out, that's where I go. I'm a chaos coordinator, so I can't always be available when he's available, but that's our intent and our goal. So yes, there are hours during the week that we spend together and planning, going over what the sermon is for that week and the scriptures, and even to where we're going to block it off a couple of weeks from now, and what he's going to do going forward, what I'm going to do going forward. So we do spend quite a bit of time together. I wish it could be more. Maybe someday this place will be at a point where we could both just be here spending time together and ministering and focusing on all that full time. But for right now, God has plans for us to still be there and here, and we're excited about that. And I just rejoice in the fact that my schedule does allow us to have that communication throughout the week as well. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. First one, do you have a vision for a worship team? And the second question is, we've talked a little bit about Wednesdays. Can we explain any new ideas for Wednesday evenings?
I'll take the first one. Yes. Yes, worship team. So, like the picture that you get in Scripture, in the Psalms, and then in the New Creation of people being involved in worship, it's not a dude with a guitar. Like, it's literally millions from every tribe, from every tongue. And we want our worship experience here to reflect heaven one day, like heaven on earth, so to speak, which is what Jesus communities are. Jesus communities are a picture of what heaven is going to be like in the new creation, so we want to reflect that. The reason for the last month or so that you've only seen me up here, Michael and I talked about this and prayed, and I think we both felt pretty strongly that we wanted to establish a regular rhythm and pattern for worship in the way that I lead, because everyone has their particular spin on what leading looks like. And then mine is only one of countless. But so that people were not confused, so that you guys weren't confused about what I was trying to do or accomplish, we both thought it was best that we establish a new rhythm and a new pattern for worship in the way that it stylistically is me, if that makes sense. I know Michael's been here for 7 years, and so there's very much like Michael is a part of this community. The way that he thinks, the way that he does things is reflected in the way that the church is run. And so we wanted something similar to that to happen, kind of me joining. But that being said, like till January, that would be kind of our establishing period. And then after that, like absolutely including all sorts of folks in worship and all sorts of instruments. Like whatever you have in your head and you think worship, like add to that, because I would want more than what would be stereotypical for an American church in 2018 to include musically and stylistically. I want so much more for us than that to really reflect what heaven's going to be like. Is that clear enough? Okay.
Hey, I played a trombone in junior high.
Man, if you can still play, I'm so serious right now. If you can still play, we got a place for you.
I'm not sure that's what he meant by joyful noise. And just so you guys are aware too, like we do realize that order of services are changing, and we're trying to fit in the old with the new, and trying to find what the best flow of the service. So things are changing. You've seen slides change. You've seen praise and prayer move to this time as opposed to that time. The offering is done at a different time. These are all not things to cause confusion in your minds, but we are just trying to figure out what best flow of service works for the two of us. So we've set short-term goals. I think January was our really kind of our short-term time frame. And then we sit down January, and then we're thinking long-term. We're setting those 5-year goals and stuff like that. So we're trying to acclimate to each other. We're very familiar with one another. We've worked together for a while. So there's a comfort there that you guys haven't experienced yet. So it's kind of presenting how we do things to you guys in a different fashion. And then January hits, and we try to take it to the next level and to the next level and just be obedient to what God's calling us to do. This was one of those things. I told Jake as we prayed before the service, which is also something we do every Sunday, is spend some time in prayer in my office. And I really struggled this week with getting the sermon to come together. And it was an easy section. It's the road to Damascus. Like, how hard is that, right? But in my mind, it was just confusing. And so as I was driving yesterday, I had to go to Houston and back. And those times I get to really kind of be inside my own head. And one of the reasons why I couldn't get it to come together is because I felt like this was important. And God laid it upon my heart to do this little Q&A session today. And then magically, once I came at peace with that, then the sermon came together quickly. Like, it's a piece of cake. We may not get to it. We probably won't get to it today, but it'll be ready for next week. But just being sensitive to the Spirit and recognizing that God's the one at work. It's not Michael. It's certainly not Jake. It's not our wives. It's not you guys. It's God. And just being obedient to listen is all we want to do. Yes, sir.
More of a comment than a question. I appreciate the innovation and the creativity. I also appreciate the variety of leaders, lay leaders as well, coming up, leading prayers and being involved in that way. I also appreciate the creativity in the music and the variety as well. So it's an affirmation more than a question.
Thank you very much.
Oh,
Thank you. What was your second question, Dave? I'm sorry.
Wednesday night.
Oh, Wednesday night. So we have, man, we're kicking around how Wednesday night works. Like at a lot of churches, they stagger times, and then you spend, 3 or 4 hours at church on a Wednesday night. I don't think we're there yet. We're not big enough for that. Numbers may cause us to do some different things later on, but right now, we're just not there. So we kind of have everybody kick off about the same time with the women's Bible study, the men's prayer meeting Bible study, youth, and then the children's ministry, which is up and coming because Jake and Michelle have 3 little ones, and we also have Riley who comes as well. So by default, now we have a children's ministry on Wednesdays. But what we're thinking about doing to kind of get us all on the same page and some type of cohesiveness where we all have a sense of worship together on Wednesdays is the ladies meet from 5:30 to 7, and that 30 minutes is typically kind of a how you doing fellowship type of time. So what we're thinking is starting the eating with the children and stuff at about 5:30, and sometime around 5:45, and Jake's going to be on the clock because he says he can do 3 songs in 15 minutes. I don't think that's possible. His wife doesn't think that's possible, but he is determined to do that. It's not happening. So anyway, then we're thinking that we will come together, all of us in here together, do a quick little worship service, and then break to our groups. And that's going to allow just some unity and then the opportunity to go in our separate areas. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. Like you want to have that. I know it would be difficult for me to stand up here and share God's truth without being prepared first. Jake said it before, like, I got the steak, I'm marinating it, I'm seasoning it, and putting all the stuff on it, I'm cooking it up nice for you, and then I need to serve it. So it just puts us in the right frame of mind going into study. So I'm excited about that. I don't know if you guys are as excited. We're open and always welcome to feedback. So we're just kind of kicking around ideas and thinking of what the best way to accommodate it. And if you're here on a Wednesday night and you look at the rooms we're using, this place is small. It's getting a little claustrophobic, but that's a good thing. These are good problems to have. Yes, sir.
As a relatively small body, taking on additional financial responsibilities is really a step of faith for Jake and for our body. And Michael, could you address the financial aspects of this, where your faith is on that?
My faith is like a mustard seed, but it's a big mustard seed. Faith is little as a mustard seed. So what we're doing is we do have funds available in the bank. I can't give you a number off the top of my head because I typically try to stay out of the finances as best I can. I've explained that to y'all in the past. I don't need to know who does what and what does who and how much and all that. That's kind of tricky for me in my mind. So Jerry takes care of all that for us. So we do have a nice little nest egg that could support us for a while, but sustainable where we're at right now it's not sustainable. So we are stepping out and knowing that God is going to provide. He gave us this opportunity to bring Jake on board. It provided a means and a time frame for us to do that, and we just trust that God is faithful. It's just not something I worry about. And maybe y'all are looking at me like, you are crazy. But I'm not. I truly feel like God has called us to be here together, and that meant that obviously we had to pay him for what he does, just like you guys paid me for what I do. So it's going to be a strain, but it's a good strain. And it's going to be a great testimony of God's faithfulness in the coming months and years as we move forward. So I didn't say that to scare anybody. I hope I didn't scare anybody, but he's always been faithful. The lights have always been on. Kathy would know better than anybody that there was times when we were worried about that. And we don't have to worry about those things anymore. We don't have to worry about lights and paychecks and copiers. We're blessed with a facility and property, so we feel good. I feel good. He may feel a little less good now that I said that, but I think we're okay. Did that answer it? Kind of, sort of?
I think it would be helpful to kind of bring it all together. Up until a few months ago, just you and Dave moving on finance comfortable and easy. Now we have a change, and change is always, work out the kinks as we change. So why did you campaign and decide to bring Jake on in the first place?
That's a great question.
So let me go back a year or so. I knew that in order for, I think as a church, I'm just going to say we've been successful. Like, we love one another, and we love God's truth, and we share that with one another, and to me that's a success, right? We're able to meet every week without fear of, again, lights being shut off or no one showing up. And so all those things, when I came here, there was about five faithful. And now as you look around the room, we're missing a lot of people today. We have a congregation full of people, so we have been successful in ministry here. I felt like I needed someone else in order for this church to grow to the next level. And I actually thought it was John Bernard a year or so ago. And I prayed about it and talked to him about it, and he was looking to start the middleman ministry full time. And we thought that would be an easy segue, like he's doing middleman full time, but then he's also going to kind of be here and help us and do different things. But God slammed that door closed real quick. And there's no doubt in my mind and in my heart he slammed that door closed because of this man beside me. He came to Faith Academy a couple of years ago. The first time I heard him play, I thought he was special. And the first time I heard him speak, I knew he was special. I knew God had a strong calling on his life, but in my mind I'm thinking, well, that'll never work. He's already employed somewhere else, certainly probably can't afford him and all these things. So I started as a joke. Hey, if you ever find yourself looking for a job, I probably can't afford you, but give me a shot at it first, right? And we had that ongoing joke for several months. And then one day, it wasn't a joke anymore. He's like, hey, so you remember, and we just sat and talked about it. And again, probably didn't think it was feasible, but as we sit here today, God provides. And he provided a way. And as Jake mentioned earlier, it's been affirmed over and over and over again. So I see his heart. You can always, one of the truest tests of a man is to see how his family reacts to him, see how his children look at him. And if you take a minute to watch that at any given time, you'll know he's a man of God, a husband of God, and a father of God.
Just stop by my house at bedtime. We'll see how you do.
Anyway, I was fanboying out for a while. Like I really thought it would be something good for our church. I approached the elders with it, talked about it. I had the benefit of a couple of them already knowing him, and then we sit here today. So.
And just so that y'all know, when I came to him and said, hey, you remember what you said? There was nothing bad that had happened where we were serving. We had been prayerful about, God, what do you want for us? Our kids were growing up. We both grew up at that church, which is cool that we got to like bring it full circle. We grew up there, we moved away, we came back, we got to serve. But we just both sensed like God calling us somewhere else and maybe to something else. And so we just started praying, what is that going to look like? And there were a couple of other opportunities that we had that when we were presented with them, it was like, we just didn't. And then like it dawned, it's like, hey, it just like one of those things, it just came, I think probably around the same time. And so Michelle and I think Michael and Jennifer, like we know that this is where God has called us. It's not a question of are we asking ourselves, is this where we need to be, God? Is this where you really called us? I know it's some people's story. That's not our story right now. Like we're confident. We're sure that this is exactly where Jesus wants us to be, and I'm going to be ministering. And just so that y'all know my heart, I think Michael shares it. I actually don't particularly care too much about where or what I'm doing. I know that God has called me specifically to lead His people, and where I get to do that and how I get to do that, I don't really care too much. That God works out those details for me. I want to serve. That's my heart. And if it was there, it's there. If it's here, it's here. And since I'm here, you got to know, like I'm about encouraging and building and equipping you so that we can do the broader work of ministering to our community.
Any more questions?
Thank you for this opportunity for all of us to hear the same answers
Absolutely.
and feel a oneness with what's happening.
Make sure you weren't lying to us individually.
Right?
I was just gonna ask if Jake and Michelle wanted to share any of their own personal visions that they want to accomplish together at the church. I know they're united in youth, at least temporarily. Would they like to share that?
Yeah, I'd love for them to share. I wanted to say one thing. When I kind of introduced Jake, and we were going over, if you have to leave, you can. If not, then we'll be fine. I said that I wanted the lines kind of to be blurry. I'm not one who gets wrapped up in titles, and I have a lot of them. And Child of God is the only one I need. And so I'm happy with that title. And what I meant is, you guys have seen he's gifted. Like he was a youth minister. He is, without a doubt, a worship leader. And he will have the opportunity to preach as well. So calling him a pastor is just natural. I don't want to pigeonhole him into one area. I want him to be able to grow as a minister, and for us all to grow together. So kind of with that being said, he does have some ideas and some things that they want to incorporate, and they have visions for what they want. Some different areas they want to help build the church in. And with that, I would just kick it back over.
Yeah, sure. Babe, you want to come up here? Okay, I asked you. You have to say yes. I asked, but I'm volunteering you.
No.
And there's Carter. This is Carter, everyone. So I'm gonna let you talk about I'm pretty sure the thing that I know she's talking about. I'm gonna let you share it.
Okay, so my name is Michelle, Jake's wife. I got to share with the women's Bible study, I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, just kind of how I see my part in this, and so I'll kind of share that as quickly as I can. I can be long-winded too. So Jake and I, we've been together for about 15 years. And then about 10 years ago, we weren't married, and we just started doing like the youth ministry together. He was called to do it, and I was kind of alongside him. And as we got married, and we started to pray about, God, how are you going to use us? Is this Jake and Michelle thing, is this a Jake thing, and I'll do my thing, and we really both felt that God was calling us to do ministry together. And so that's where the youth ministry started, or student ministry, because we were doing children and youth. So that's where it all began, and here it is like 10 years later. At West End, or where we were, we did a lot of those things together. He would do the boys' small group, and I would do the girls' small group, and we'd come back together. You know, we went on overnight trips. We did summer camps, all those types of things. So coming here and not exactly having the title of youth minister kind of changed things for us, and we're excited about that. Just a little change of pace. And while we do still want to do youth, just not do youth, we also kind of want to get to know the adults and spend time with you guys. And so how we kind of, or for me, I have visions. I'm pretty good at those. I'm just not good at making them happen. I need help with that. And so something that Jake and I talked about is starting like I call it a comm group. It's community group, and you meet outside of Sundays. And the one that we're kind of looking at right now is to start a married with children, I guess. I haven't come up with a cute little title yet or anything, but that's just something to look forward to, where we can get to know other couples and have people to do life with, and get to know Jesus together and live that out. I've got some outreach type of things that I can see happening, and one of those things is going to be for the Fall Festival, and just really having purposefully telling people, like giving them an invite to come, and it not just being like, you know, a festival you bring your child to and then you never come back kind of thing. Like, hey, we want you to come join us, and let's get to know Jesus. And so that's kind of my play in this. And so whenever we do the youth, I want to get to know you girls, and if we can get a girls' Bible study going, and I'm all about it, and because there are a lot of girls. So I'm here for you guys. And so, yeah.
Woo!
Thank you. Good job, Carter.
Literally picking his nose. Literally, that happened.
I saw that. Anybody else? Okay, I was just going to close with one, and I'm going to put her kind of on the spot, and I hate that, but I think she's okay. I think Karen said it best. She had a conversation with me, and she said that she's kind of asking essentially, who's our pastor? Ladies and gentlemen, I haven't gone anywhere. I'm right here. I'm still your pastor. But she said, I think she said it in a good way for us all to step back and think about. She said that we love Jake because you told us to love Jake, because we love you. And so I want that to be a reality right now. And thank you guys for being loyal and trusting that I'm bringing in someone who's not power hungry, not trying to usurp anyone, not trying to take over the church. Like I said, I don't have any intention of going anywhere. This is a long-term plan in my mind. But I do hope that over time, as y'all get to know him more and spend quality time with him, that you will love them on their own merits. But I do appreciate, I need y'all to know the loyalty and how much it means to me that you guys just opened up your house, essentially, and said, come on in, because we trust you, Michael, and we think that you're going to lead us in the right direction. So I do appreciate that, and I thank you guys for trusting me enough to do that. I hope that you know it came with a lot of prayer, a lot of conversation, a lot of sharing with others behind the scenes. So now it's a reality, and I am beyond excited for our new reality here at Grace Community Church.